Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Zinda, The Plain Truth, Spurs Gemo, Sleeping Warrior, Rumpus, Music, Jose, Warren and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Hello. What?
Good afternoon. So,
are we
going to have a hangout now, or is it going to be another hour-long monologue with rumpusing in the background?
I was asked to give an experiment for the measurement of G, and I'm just providing a link.
Just before we do anything, would you mind playing the link I've sent to you in Skype? It was in between the hangouts yesterday with me and Adam Meakin, where I predicted what Rumpus would do when he came into the hangout. Would you mind just playing the bit that's queued up? It's only about 10 seconds.
What? You're saying that Rumpus is predictable?
Do you agree that F equals MA?
Like I said, I'd like to see. Look, I don't think we're the first to discover that issue. So I'd like to seek a little bit of research to see how that's mitigated for, when I would imagine they stick all sorts of G's in there.
Well, yeah, that's
I'd like to
why
see how that's mitigated in the mathematics.
The mitigation comes from the application of the word weight. You watch, if Rumpus gets in, then the very first thing he'll do is immediately call mass a weight. And the minute he does that, that's where little g gets brought in. So the minute he does that, that's where I go, no, it's to do with density by the definition, Rumpus. You don't know what you're doing.
Do you know the difference between mass and weight, Anthony?
Yeah, little g. That's basically it.
Right. Give me the definition of weight and give me the definition of mass.
The only difference is basically little g and volume. That's it. That's why.
Nothing to do with volume.
When you put your formula on screen,
straight away you got it wrong. It's got nothing to do with volume. So you got that wrong.
No, listen, Rumpus. That's why when you put your maths on screen the other day, and we had the neutral buoyancy definition on screen.
Yeah, I asked you for the definition of weight, Anthony.
You added volume and little g.
I did indeed. Yeah. I asked you just now the definition of weight.
Anthony, how do you define weight? Because it's there, right? People use it. So what is it? It just doesn't exist, or?
It's like when they hijack.
Yeah, but what is it? I don't care what you think that is being done with it. What is it?
Yeah.
What is? Are you asking me for my definition?
Is weight?
Your definition of weight? Yes.
My definition of weight goes back to the neutral buoyancy position with the what do you call it? So let me get it back on screen.
So
you know those
right,
columns.
So define weight.
Hold on,
through
Arwin
neutral
and
buoyancy.
Rumpus.
Go ahead.
You've asked him a question. You're not going to give him a chance to answer. He's had about 5 seconds.
Right, so Nathan, would you mind putting this back on screen?
Sure.
Let's I'll have to pull it back up, so just bear with me 1 sec.
You don't know what weight is, do you?
So
you know before, Rumpus, when you said about being stood on a set of scales, and I asked you a question, an alternative question, yeah?
Yeah.
I said, is it not just measuring the disequilibrium that you have between the medium that you're in?
Yeah.
Well, watch this. So let's say that the cherry tomato is the human on the weights, yeah? So you stand on the scales and you're not accelerating anymore, so you've not got a force.
Net force. Force.
So you say, but anyway, you stand on the scales and you measure something, right? And we know that it's going to measure the same as the medium that he's in because this is neutrally buoyant. But if we replace this medium and give it like the medium of number 3, for example, that is significantly less, the cherry tomato now appears to have a weight. However, if we give the medium number 9, the cherry tomato rises because it's less dense than the medium it's in. So we know that it's to do with the density of the medium that you're in, and we're all in air. So when you say what is weight, you're claiming it's an attractive force to the center of the Earth.
Correct.
I'm saying that the weight of the cherry tomato depends on the medium that it's in.
No, it doesn't.
So you're saying
Yeah,
that
it does.
weight is relative.
Well, when you say weight, you're describing it to be an attractive force between the center of the Earth, little
Correct.
g.
That's the definition of weight. Yes.
That is the definition of weight. That's why you're insistent that it comes into the equation, right?
Yeah.
However, if the scales were put on the cherry tomato, depending on what number medium it's in, that cherry tomato's got a different weight.
No, it hasn't got a different weight.
It has, because it's
got a
relative
apparent weight.
It's in
Because
Rumpus.
the buoyancy force, Anthony.
You tell me, Rumpus, what is weight?
Right, here we go. The weight of the cherry tomato does not change because you've surrounded it with a medium. The point is,
No, it does. The mass doesn't change.
Anthony, let me finish.
No, the mass doesn't
Anthony,
change.
hold on.
Let me
Weight
finish.
Anthony.
Let me
No, you're
finish.
wrong.
Let me
Anthony,
finish.
Let him
There's
do his.
no, Anthony, you interrupted my answer, but there's an opposing force called buoyancy.
No.
Yeah,
Objection.
Oh, don't you start interrupting me as well.
The mass
So-
doesn't change, Rumpus,
No,
but
the
its
mass
weight
doesn't
does.
change. Anthony, let me finish my
Buoyancy is
answer.
not a force.
Anthony, let me finish my answer. There's two forces in action here. One is the weight of the cherry tomato, which doesn't change. Then you add in a buoyancy force, which opposes it. In this case, the buoyancy force equals the weight. So you've got two opposing forces, like a tug of war, and they net to zero because you
Prove the
chose a
forces.
particular medium.
Prove that there's a force.
You can do that by standing on some scales. Because if you change
Yeah,
the
but you need
density
to
of
be
that,
moving. F
Anthony,
equals MA.
just ask me a question if I can prove it, and then you stop me from answering. If
Because
you
you said-
remove, oh, for Jesus Christ, you just asked me to prove there is a weight there. If you were to take that cherry tomato and put it in a vacuum, you would see there's an apparent weight.
Sorry, that's ignoring Anthony's point. So Anthony's point is that it's relevant to the medium, and your example is to immediately suck out the medium completely, removing it from the equation, even though when Anthony's describing these forces that you claim are there, he's saying they are negated by virtue of the medium that they are in. So the cherry tomato has no weight because it's effectively weightless. It is in neutral buoyancy.
Vacuum required.
Let me just see if that works.
So, Rumpus,
Yes, I mean, that would do. Yes, you could just take the cherry tomato out and then weigh that. You would see that it still has weight independent of the medium. And of course, if you put it in a vacuum, there are no
No,
buoyancy
'cause then it's
forces
in
at
air.
all, and you get its real weight.
No, you're misrepresenting again. So then you've taken
No, you're
it
an idiot,
out of the
Nathan, that's
medium
all.
that it was neutrally buoyant in and placed it into the medium of air where it's more dense and then weighing it.
Well, if you remove the medium, see, you've got a confusion here,
Yeah,
as
you've
my
done it
diagram
again.
shows.
You've done
got
it again.
Two forces in action.
You've just said if you
And
remove the
want to
medium.
eliminate the buoyancy
What we are
effects, then you're just
describing
left
is
with the
how
weight.
things behave in mediums and you're removing it. You can't censor reality, Rumpus.
Agreed, Nathan. Absolutely right there. You can't censor reality, and if you wanted, you should realise that if you're trying to do a scientific analysis of something, you break down into its component parts, and one of those component parts is the weight, and the other component part is the
No,
buoyancy.
the weight is specifically how something behaves when attracted to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
It's been verified, yes.
No, it's not been verified, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be having
Okay,
this
you're
debate.
You're just stupid, Nathan. That's your.
No, that's just an ad hominem. So that doesn't come with the devastating destruction of my argument. Your argument being that it's verified. If it was verified, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You're just stupid and ill-educated.
No,
That's-
another ad hominem. If it was verified, the debate wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be necessary to discuss it. We wouldn't be having
There are
this
stupid people
conversation.
in the world, Nathan. You're one of them. That's the problem. You don't know what science has found out.
Yeah, you think science is mathematics. We established firmly during the break. Check out Nathan Oakley channel if you want to see the firm establishment of Rumpus declaring that maths is science when it isn't. He's just an
You're just science, Nathan.
I'm about to
No,
smack Rumpus so others can talk.
science at all. It's a description of what the life of the world that we live in is supposed to represent. But if it don't match, it's wrong.
But it does match exactly. It matches exactly, Anthony.
Listen,
Exactly.
I wanna
All those
ask you,
values
please.
within those equations need to be scientifically validated.
It's
And
a
they have.
Frankenstein
And
model,
they have been
Rumpus.
validated. They have
Right,
been validated.
I've got three questions for you, Rumpus. Are you familiar with Newton's laws of motion?
Absolutely, yes.
Great. So with regard to the cherry tomato that's sat in that state of equilibrium, it's just like the egg in the water, right? I'm going to read to you what the second law of motion states. It says
Yeah.
the velocity. The law defines a force to be equal to the change in momentum,
Yeah,
mass
net- that
times
means
velocity
Net
per
force.
change in time.
Yeah,
So
net force.
basically, this basically says that if there's a mass and it's accelerating, you've got a force.
Net force.
Yeah, but you can't show the game of tug of war that's going on, can you?
Yeah,
I
you
can. Because it has, as if you take the cherry tomato out of those mediums, you can show it still has weight. Sorted. Your case solved. You've been
Well,
proved
that's
wrong.
not showing that there's a game of tug-of-war going on
There
there.
is, because you can show that the tomato has weight, and you can also show by pressing down on it, Anthony. If I got you to get a football and tried to push it underwater, you'll see there's a buoyancy force. So we can do the same for the tomato and demonstrate there's a buoyancy force. If we push it down, if you push that little cherry tomato down, it'll be pushed up with a force. That's the buoyancy force.
Right, but the only reason why it's got a force is because it's an accelerating mass, correct?
No, it's not accelerated if it's stationary. There's a net force.
That's what
tug-of-war, Anthony, there's a tug-of-war going on. And if the tug-of-war,
resistance.
The tug-of-war, if like the tug-of-war, the two teams are pulling the same force, there's no movement, even though there are forces at play.
Where's
they
the rope?
cancel one another out.
Hold on. Where's the rope?
Still actually pressure and torque measured on the rope.
Arwin, why are you doing this? Where's the rope?
Oh, what? Because I can never. You know what?
Where's the rope, Rumpus?
I'll just go away because everyone can interrupt, but I can't without you nagging at
Where's
me.
the rope,
Right away.
Rumpus? Where's the rope?
Really lovely, lovely.
Where's the rope in this tug-of-war?
Rumpus for an hour, but if I
Yeah,
have
thanks,
something
Arwin.
to say,
Thanks a lot.
shut up, Arwin.
Just play the victim. That's it. Be a
I want
martyr.
Rumpus to show me the gravity rope.
Where's the rope?
Rumpus,
in
you've
this
got to show that
tug-of-war?
there is a net force there, right? You can't just claim it. You've got to show it. But
There's
but by saying that there's a net force,
Of
are
zero.
you, Rumpus, are you agreeing and therefore conceding that because there's not a moving mass, an accelerating mass, that you haven't got the initial force? Do you agree?
No, because the net force is zero, because there are two opposing forces that cancel one another. How many times do I have to tell you this, Anthony? Two forces of equal opposite magnitude equal zero.
To claim that there's a net force means that you accept that this is true. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to claim it.
Equation is true. Yes.
Right. So, in absence of an accelerating mass, we've only got a mass. Therefore, there's no force.
Correct. Net force.
Right. Net force. But we all agree that you can't prove that there's a game of tug-of-war going on apart from.
We can, because if you take the tomato out, it's still got weight. You idiot.
So, Rumpus, I want to go to the first law.
Very simple.
An object will remain at rest in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force.
Yeah.
Now, that cherry tomato's at rest. It
Because
requires
it's got a net force of zero acting on it. Yeah.
It requires an external force to make it move. Now, you're saying there's already a net force there, right? In addition to the neutral buoyancy that it's in.
There are two forces of equal magnitude in opposite direction, which equals zero, like a tug-of-war.
But it says that the object will remain at rest unless it's forced to by an external force.
Yes, but if the net force is zero, it won't move.
Or there's no net force.
Yeah, so if there's no net force, it won't move. Like a tug-of-war, like a rope doesn't move in a tug-of-war.
And no net force means no
Sorry, someone
tug-of-war.
coughed over that.
No tug-of-war, no rope, no cars, no pulling, no force.
There's nothing. There's only density and
Do you understand, Nathan? In tug-of-war, there are two forces that are equal and opposite magnitude when the rope is stationary.
Yes, I understand. In a tug, excuse me, I hadn't finished. In a tug-of-war, that might be true. Can you show me the rope that is in the tug-of-war with the cherry tomato and the relative medium? It's sorry, do I not get to make my point? Sorry,
I
Rumpus.
didn't send.
You're trying to censor reality again.
No, I was quiet. I didn't send it with someone else.
Yeah, right. Show me the rope, please.
Right. Can you show me the electrostatic force, please?
Sorry, we're not talking about electrostatic forces.
Yes,
we're talking
I've shown
about
there are lots of
your
invisible,
example of a
yes, there are
rope.
lots of forces that are invisible, you utter moron. And gravitational force is one of them. You utter
invisible.
moron.
So let me get it straight. It's an invisible net force of zero. So it's a force.
Great.
So it's a force we can't see, can't measure. Rumpus, please.
Fantastic.
Excuse me. So it's a force we can't see, can't measure, and has no effect.
Can measure. Get on some scales.
Sorry, it's a net force of zero. Excuse me. Why are you rumpusing me trying to censor reality again?
Get on some scales, Nathan, and you can measure the
Sorry,
force.
you're trying to censor reality. I'm trying to make a point.
Stupid point.
Yeah, you're censoring me. Why are you trying to censor reality, Rumpus? Doesn't this bode well with your religion?
You're the one with a religion. It's obvious you're the one with a religion.
Yeah, you've got a religion, so I'm going to make my point, right? We have a net force of zero that's invisible, has no effect, and cannot be measured. So there is no force, we can't see it, and it has no effect.
Get on some scales, Nathan. You'll see the
Sorry,
effect.
we're not talking about me. We're talking about a cherry tomato.
Okay, put the cherry...
Shut up! We're talking about a cherry tomato in equilibrium that, according to you, has no net invisible force on it.
When you've got a buoyancy force as opposite, yes, like you've got in this situation that Anthony's showing.
Right, yes, good. You confirm. There is 0 net invisible force that we can't see or measure. Right, that's what you're claiming. So that you can insert G. So we can't see it, it doesn't have an effect, it's invisible, but you're going to claim it's there.
Yeah, but if you push the tomato down...
No. We're not pushing anything. We are in equilibrium with 0 net force, 0 net invisible force that we can't see, can't measure, and has no effect. But you're still claiming it's there, and when I point it out, you say if we push the cherry tomato down. No, it's in equilibrium with no force. No net
and
force,
it will move to a position
invisible
where there's
force,
force.
no net
Take it out of
invisible
the medium
force.
and you'll see that there is a force acting on it. What is difficult about this?
Because you're saying it's an invisible force that has a net effect of 0, doesn't do anything, doesn't cause any effects, can't be measured, it's invisible, its net result is 0, but we have to believe there is something actually there. That's what you're saying. And we're saying this sounds like the Emperor's new clothes.
Try putting the cherry tomato somewhere else, Nathan. You'll see
No. We're not moving the cherry tomato. It's just happily sat there doing nothing with no net, invisible, non-measurable force acting on it. That's what's happening.
A force will push it there.
Now, you just keep wanting to move the goalposts like last time. Every time we point out that it's not got any forces, and you say there's no net, invisible, 0 force that can't be measured, yeah, we concede, and you say, great! So we accept that there's a tug-of-war going on, and I say, where's the rope? And you say, rumpus.
No, I say it's like electrostatic. Do you accept magnetism exists?
Sorry,
Nathan?
no. We're asking you where the force is. In an electrostatic force, you can see an effect. We're saying there is 0 effect. It's invisible. It can't be measured. Net 0. Nothing's happening. Not a tug of war. Normally you see smoke coming out the tractors and ropes getting tight and things on the ground, maybe the wheels spinning. Things like that happen, right? So there are effects that you can see. We're asking where's the rope? Where's the tractors in this net invisible 0 force that we can't see, can't measure, isn't there, but you say is.
Is there. Can measure it very easily.
See, you just say it's there, right? I point out it's 0. I point out we can't see it. I point out we can't measure it. I point out it has no effect. And you say, but it is there. It sounds like the Emperor's new clothes.
Tug of war, Nathan. Just like a tug of war.
Yeah, and you've said that again. And I point out there's no tractors. There's no tyres spinning. There's no rope. There's nothing like a tug of war going on. Just a happy little cherry tomato sat there doing nothing.
But there's a force acting on it, Nathan. Put it on.
Yeah, you just assert that. So we're saying you say there's a force. What force, Rumpus? The 0 force. The invisible force. The force you can't measure. The force that doesn't do anything. And we say that's the Emperor's new clothes. A force that's not there that we can't see and can't measure. That's not real. That's just you saying it's really there. So when we say prove it, what's your proof of it? You just don't have any. You don't have any scientific evidence of gravity. We established in Nathan Oakley channel, when people see your fuckwittery, that you don't know the difference between maths and science.
You're an idiot.
That's just an ad hominem attack. My attack comes with the Emperor's new clothes example. You're saying we must accept a force that we cannot measure, cannot see, has 0 difference, makes no effect, and isn't there. It's not doing anything.
Oh, it is doing something. Remove
it is doing something. Not doing anything isn't doing something. Net effect 0 is nothing's happening. It's not moving. We're not pushing the cherry tomato down. It's just a happy little tomato sat there.
And put it on some scales and you'll see the force in action.
Yeah, so we have to move it, don't we? So we have to take it out of equilibrium where it's a happy little tomato doing nothing with no net force. And we have to put it on some scales. Because then we can talk about weight to affirm your religion.
You separate variables, Nathan.
No, we're not separating anything. We're looking at a cherry tomato in equilibrium. We're not separating it. We're looking at it. Going, right, there's no net force. Nothing's happening. And you're saying there is. There must be. If we take it out and put it on a scale. If we take it out and put it on a scale in air, then we've got a weight. Then we can work with that. Because then we can introduce G. That works with my religion. So let's take it out of equilibrium. Not discuss that nothing's happening. And put it on a bloody scale.
Do you think in a tug of war anything's happening?
What tug of war? The cherry tomato got ropes attached to it. Has the cherry tomato got
No,
ropes
the
attached?
principle. I'm trying to get a principle out of you, Nathan. Do you accept in a Tug-of-war?
Don't give me a principle when we're looking at a happy little cherry tomato. When I'm looking at a happy little cherry tomato not doing anything, I don't need to know about tractors pulling ropes. It's a false equivalent. Don't need to be told about what's happening in a tug-of-war. There's no tug-of-war going on.
There is, Anthony, because I'm sorry, Nathan, because if you put the tomato on some scales, you'll see one of the forces in
Yeah,
action.
but we're not putting it on the scales. It's in equilibrium.
But you want to isolate. In science, you try and isolate the different effects and isolate them so you can measure them separately. We can see there's
No,
a
we
force
try
acting
and
on the
isolate
tomato.
variables. So if you're going to claim this is science, then you need to first start to formulate a hypothesis and then show me that there's been systematic experimentation done in terms of taking happy little tomatoes and putting them on scales, you idiot.
Nathan, let me ask this
Welcome,
last question.
Primers.
AP.
Rumper's last question, and then I'm done. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Yep.
Now, you claim that by standing on a set of scales, that's a
Yep.
force.
Yep.
What's the equal and opposite reaction?
Right. When you stand on some scales, you compress the spring and the spring pushes back with exactly the same force. Once it gets to equilibrium, the spring is pushing back with the same force that you're pushing down. And therefore, the net force is zero. Therefore, there's no movement.
Is there any other explanation that could be possible? No?
When
you
you get
answer?
to equilibrium,
Yes, I
sorry,
said
we've
no.
taken.
No
Hold on,
other
I'm a bit
explanation.
confused.
Right.
The cherry
So-
tomato was in equilibrium. We've taken it
That's
out and
because
put
the
it on the
buoyancy
scale.
force here in action.
You're not letting me finish. So you're saying let's take it out of equilibrium and put it on a
Isolate it, yeah.
scale, and then you're saying when it compresses a spring, it reaches equilibrium. It was already in equilibrium. So why do we need to reach equilibrium on your man-made device when it was already in equilibrium, when it was in its similar density liquid?
Well, I wanted to demonstrate to you that it still has weight and the scale.
Yes, you need it to be weight. That's it. That's our point. So we're taking it out of equilibrium, putting it on a scale so you can say it has weight, even though what you're actually demonstrating is an increased mass in a different density with a man-made
mass? What are you
device
talking about?
that wouldn't
Mass
work
doesn't
in the
change.
density it was in when it was in a happy little equilibrium.
Yeah, the buoyancy force, which is
Yeah, buoyancy and density, not weight. Right, Rumpus. Yeah, okay. Yeah, why don't you sod off? I think we've had enough of you for the one show, 2 shows now.
so the
What about the
tomato
cherry
will
tomato?
move to the point where the
Rumpus,
two.
let me ask-
forces- Oh, let me just finish my last sentence. The tomato will move to the point where the two forces of buoyancy and weight cancel out, and so it will.
No, the tomato's not moving. Don't assert the tomato will move. Unless you bloody move it, it's not going anywhere. It's a happy little tomato in equilibrium.
Let's start it off at position 1, shall we?
No, it's not starting off at position 1. It's in equilibrium now. That's what we're talking about. But you must attribute a travelling speed to it, right? It's got to have a velocity. It's got to be moving. You need that to happen for you to attribute weight. You need it desperately. You need that tomato not to be a happy tomato in equilibrium. You need it moving, don't you?
Earlier will predict how it will behave when you put it in another medium. So I'll be able to say to Anthony, go away.
You're not putting it in another medium. Why do you want to put it in a different medium? It's a happy little tomato. It's got 0 force, 0 invisible force that we can't measure and can't see, and nothing's happening to it because of it. And you want to move it. Why? That tomato's happy, man. It's a happy tomato.
As a major achievement.
Doesn't need moving.
I will be able to tell you the force that will be exerted on the tomato by putting it in a different medium. I'll be able to
We don't need to move the tomato. You need to move the tomato. It's a happy tomato. It's not going anywhere. It's a happy little tomato. Let's show the audience just how happy that tomato is. Look, it's in equilibrium. It's not moving. It's a happy
Would you be
tomato.
impressed, Anthony, that I could give you the numbers, the
I need
forces
to get this out there. Hold on. I got a title for the show. The Rumpus Cannot Cherry Tomato.
Yeah, it doesn't want that tomato to be. It has to move it. It can't. It's got OCD about this tomato. It can't just stay where it is. It's got to move
Anthony,
it.
don't you think that's impressive? I'll be able to tell you the force that
No,
tomato
not
would
at all.
exert by
No,
putting
If
it
you
in
move
a
it.
medium.
I asked you what was the equal and opposing force for your thing, and you said about the springs underneath. And I asked you,
All right, yeah.
I asked you, was there an alternative explanation or not? And you said no. Well,
That's right.
I'm going to say to you that that's not true, because if you've got the human being the cherry tomato and the medium that the
Yeah, but you've got a
human being
medium
in,
now. You've introduced a
weight-
medium, Anthony.
Yeah,
Wait
he's
a
going to
sec.
rumpus it,
You've
Anthony.
introduced a medium. That didn't exist in the example you started off
Is
with.
this,
Wait,
is this
it's
a crescendo of your
if you
point,
can
Anthony?
make it
Because if it is,
wrong.
I'll just kick him out. He doesn't want you to make your devastating end point.
Well, he's just talking about buoyancy.
wait.
He's saying on scales there's no buoyancy effect.
Just listen. If the
You
medium
didn't say scales underwater, did
I'm
you,
gonna have to
Anthony?
kick
You
him
said
out, Anthony.
scales
What do you reckon?
presumably in your
Anthony,
bathroom
can you hear
or
me?
something.
Can you hear me, Anthony? I'm just going to have
Yes.
to kick him out, or he won't let you make your point, and I want it to be reasonably concise.
When did you mention water?
Just let him
Anthony?
listen. Just let him listen.
He won't.
Rumpus, if I stand on a set of scales at the bottom of a swimming pool,
Yeah, but you were doing. Yeah, it wasn't the
Count
example
one.
situation you gave.
Count
was it,
one,
Anthony?
Anthony. I'm going
What
to give him 3
will the
counts, and then he's
scales do?
out.
At the bottom of the water, as I said, if you were at the bottom of a pool, like you've got,
He hasn't finished, Rumpus.
you would have.
He hasn't
weight
finished.
Of the,
He didn't
he has
finish.
finished. He did finish.
No,
So
he didn't.
You said that there was an equal and opposing force, and you said it was the springs inside the scales.
Yeah.
And I said, was there an alternative? And you said no. Well,
Not
if
in the
scales,
situation you
if
described.
you
That's
change
twice.
the medium that the
That's
scales
2.
are in.
Yeah, but Anthony, you didn't mention the medium, did you?
Shut up,
Shush.
Rumpus. Let him make his devastating
didn't
point.
mention the medium,
You
did
can't
you?
censor reality, Rumpus.
So my question is that the only explanation? And you said yes. So
In
my
the case you described, yes. You didn't mention a
Just
medium,
listen.
did you?
Right, I've got to
Just
kick him out,
listen.
Anthony. I'm sorry. He just can't help
If we-
himself.
If we change the medium, Rumpus, that the scales are in,
Yes, you
and
then get
then
buoyancy
weigh the
force. I've
human,
been talking about this. I've got
Shut
an equation for it, Anthony,
Shut
for
up.
God's sake.
Right, I've got to
if we
kick
change
him.
the medium that the scales are in,
Kicked
and then
him.
weigh the human, what's going to then happen?
Hello.
Hey, Jimbo. I've kicked Rumpus. He just wouldn't let you make your point. Can everyone just let Anthony make his actual point?
My point is that there is an alternative explanation, and then the explanation or the alternative explanation is that if you change the medium that you put your scales in, you will change the so-called weight. So you're not actually measuring weight. What you're actually measuring is how much of a disequilibrium that you are in, because we're all heavier than air. And what you're measuring is how much mass that you are disequilibrium to the air that you're in. And you know that by if you measure yourself in water, you're a fraction of the weight. And that's really what's going on. You're measuring by what they call weight and little g. You're just measuring how much of a discrepancy there is between the medium that you're in and the mass that you weigh. That's it. It's dead simple.
I'm not surprised he's been trying to obfuscate that for the last hour.
Well, may I add that all he's trying to do is attribute something to density that it's not. Density is a ratio. It's not a force. A ratio is the, percentage of one thing to the other, a ratio.
He has to obfuscate the point because he needs it to be weight. He needs it to be little g so that he can support this downwards acceleration thing called gravity. Yeah. But there is an alternative explanation, and it's a lot simpler. Doesn't require any maths whatsoever. It just requires a scale,
but
and it can be elephants.
On the subject of density, it is a ratio. It's the mass to volume ratio in every instance.
But the point is, it doesn't even need a scale. You can call it elephants, you can call it kilograms, you can call it clouds. Doesn't matter what you call it, but everybody understands that there's a scale involved, and depending on where you fit in that scale, you can tell where you're going to be. And
one thing you cannot call it the force is my point. He's trying to make it a force. It's a ratio. No ratio can be a force. How many apples to oranges do you have? It's a ratio. It's not a force. Understand?
I agree.
Simple.
Completely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Can't make it something it's not. And that's what Rumpus wants to do. Wants to make the ratio the actual force of tug-of-war and pulling by just all the nonsense of not even recognizing that it's just a ratio of mass to volume. End it there. He's an idiot.
It's not that difficult. It just makes it sound really difficult when you start talking about all these extra forces that don't satisfy Newton's laws on the laws of movement. If you haven't got an accelerating mass, you've not got a force. There's an equal and opposite force, and that never gets talked about. What was the other one? Something that is at rest will remain at rest unless a force is added.
How you doing?
Well, the cherry tomatoes at rest.
Hey, Thomas. Can you hear us?
What's happening, people?
Good to have you.
Have you not been watching, Thomas?
I kind of been watching, not in the past 3 minutes.
We're just trying to work out whether or not there's a game of tug-of-war going on with the cherry tomato. I call bullshit.
There's no tug-of-war going on with the cherry tomato. There's no gravity rope involved.
No, I agree. I think you've got to be a moron to think that there's a game of tug-of-war going on when there's no force. Everybody can see there isn't one.
Well, it's just by trying to make densities redefined. It is not a force, and it can never be. It's not responsible for tug-of-war, tractor, ropes, nothing.
But
just big shout out to Alicia Champagne, is it? More explanations needed for no distance to the sun. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alicia.
This is Thomas. Do you mind if I say something?
Go ahead.
Go.
So gravity, it's an interesting subject, but it seems to me it would be easy to prove gravity if you had a mathematical equation that contained a term for gravity. And then if the equation worked with the term, the gravitational constant, but then if you tried to use the equation without the gravitational constant, the answer was not correct, that would lead you in the direction that maybe there is gravity, maybe there is something to the gravitational constant because it's required in the mathematical equation for it to predict the behavior of a falling object.
I'd agree. How are you going to?
Okay, so if we take the gravitational constant out of the equation, how do we predict the behavior of a falling object with only density?
Mathematically, that's the only way you can do it.
Right. So your mathematical equation, let's do this. You use density only in your math. I'll use density and I'll use the gravitational constant, which is a string of characters that defines how gravity is used in math.
It's fine. And how is this going to contrast against what you're describing as the gravitational constant? How are you going to show what is the constant compared to what's not when you're doing it real world?
Well, we're just going to assume the constant is correct because they created it, just for the sake of this exercise. The gravitational constant equals gravity, and this is how we can prove it. We can take a 9-pound bowling ball, we can drop it 1,000 feet. We can time it with a stopwatch. We have math that can predict how long it will take for that object to reach terminal velocity, and then we have another math equation that will predict how long it will take to fall the rest of the way. So that's sort of a compound equation and requires the gravitational constant as the force pulling the object down at 9.8 meters squared, or whatever it is.
So what?
All I'm saying is that if you take that gravitational constant out of the equation, it can no longer predict the behavior of that falling object. And so in essence, if this is true, if the gravitational constant can predict the behavior of a falling object, then it proves both the math and that gravity exists.
No, it doesn't. All it proves is that a formula.
Why it doesn't. Explain why it doesn't.
Because I don't think umbrellas would work in a bowling ball rainstorm.
The answer is because all it does is proves that the equation itself works, and you're not able to contrast what it would be like if the equation didn't work real world. Yeah, mathematically you can show it, but how are you going to show it real world by removing little g? Because the strength of it's basically minuscule, but it's the reason why all the oceans of the world are held onto the ball. But how are you going to demonstrate it real world by manipulating that little g? You can't. It's a very weak force. If you removed it, you wouldn't notice the effect of it because it's so small, yet it's the biggest fight that we have.
Well, do you see where someone had to fly up in the air and throw the stupid bowling ball off a plane in the first place? The bowling ball gravity didn't get it up there.
We have a tower. You can climb a tower.
Well,
and drop a bowling ball 10 feet.
Climbing
You can drop a bowling ball 10 feet off a ladder.
But that's the same as pulling the pendulum back for the...
Someone is doing that. It's an action.
Hold on. One at a time.
All I'm saying is when you use math to analog the real world, you need terms that describe the things that you're trying to analog. Like
you also need evidence of the
size of
between the two. You need evidence.
Hold on a second. Is it Thomas? Thomas.
It is Thomas.
So
that's my name.
I think Jimbo's point is that does your equation also take into account the fact that you've had to take the bowling ball up the tower, or does your equation start when you drop it?
This, for logical purposes, this is to prove the gravitational constant exists.
Sorry, I'll ask
you a question.
Sorry, Thomas, I understand. Hold on, Jimbo. Hold on, Warren. You either not understood my question, or you just felt it necessary to repeat your assertion.
No, yeah, you're saying, are you including the energy required to carry the ball up to the height before it's dropped? I claim that's irrelevant to the point.
So the answer to the question then, hold on, Thomas.
What all you're doing is carrying something up a hill and then releasing it.
Thomas, you're behaving like a real globehead. Can we have a civil Discord where one of us talks, then we get a response?
Yeah, that's fine. You guys are all talking over each other, and we don't need ad hominem in the discussion
No problem.
either.
I agree. So, what your answer to my question would be then is no. You entirely ignore the process involved to get it to the stage where you can drop it. That's deemed irrelevant by you, correct?
Okay, so let's write a math equation that contains the terms used, energy required to lift said object, and so forth. So all we're doing is negating the gravitational force.
Really?
Taking the object up to a position where it has an energy potential and then dropping it. So it's basically the opposite
so the two would
of the
equally,
operation
so you're
of the
saying,
gravitational force pulling the object down. You're just carrying the object up.
wow,
And
so
you're
the
doing it
two
in a
would
different
cancel each
fashion
other
at a
out.
different speed, using a different energy source, a different method.
So the two
I
would
don't know. I
cancel
mean,
each other out.
there's a
Then
lot of
Thomas,
ambiguous definition in what you're talking about. All I'm talking about is dropping an object, timing it, and then using math to predict that same.
yes, you've said that,
amount
Thomas.
of time
I
that
heard.
it fell.
So, Thomas, thank
It's an
you for
exercise.
repeating it 3 times. We heard. So, you are going to ignore the fact that if you were to factor in the fact that you put energy in to get it up and then expelled energy getting it back down again, the two would cancel each other out. But if you ignore it, or as you phrased it, deem it irrelevant, then you can calculate that G by just ignoring that bit. Correct?
What does carrying the object
Don't ask
up
me
to
a
the height
question. Just confirm or deny what
necessary?
I've said as correct or incorrect. Am I correct?
I don't
Do I need to
understand what
repeat
you're
my
trying to
assertion?
say. I
Do
don't
need to
understand what
repeat
you're
it,
trying to
Thomas?
say. I'm
Thomas,
trying to
you're
understand
talking
the
when I'm
relevance
talking again, Thomas.
to
You're
the
very rude. You're
lifting
like a
of the
lot of
object.
mopeds we deal with. Thomas, you seem to be rambling. Thomas, this was Jimbo's point. So, are you confirming me as correct when I assert that you simultaneously ignore the balancing of the equation if you included the energy expelled to get it up to the top in the first place? You do, in fact, deem that irrelevant and then start making your maths from when you've got it up there, correct?
Well, you can create math. The
You're not
gravitational.
Thomas.
That's correct, Nathan. Nathan,
Excellent.
it's logical. Okay, if we take a logical flat plane, it goes on forever and it's 2-dimensional. It's not real. Okay, hang on. It's not a real place.
Sorry,
It's
why are we
logical.
talking about a flat plane
Okay,
now?
my
Sorry,
bowling
we
ball
were talking
is not
about
a real
bowling balls.
ball.
Thomas,
It's a logical
Thomas,
bowling ball.
Thomas,
that weighs
Thomas,
9 pounds.
Thomas.
Hang on a second. You guys
Well,
aren't
no,
letting me
let's just
speak.
shut you up. We were talking about bowling balls. Now you want to talk about something else. So,
No, I'm talking about exactly the same description of the exercise that I gave you before. It's a logical exercise. This isn't a real place where a little gremlin carries a bowling ball up a spiral staircase. That's not how this works.
Scientific one.
How the bowling ball gets to its starting point is irrelevant.
no, it isn't. So, as you've just admitted, the two amounts of energy expelled going up and then dropping the ball would cancel each other out. So it's only if you ignore this and deem it irrelevant that you can extrapolate your gravity from it.
No, that's not true, Nathan. There's something
It's
called
unnecessary, Nathan.
Sorry, so
Can I
we can
answer?
ignore the energy that
You're
bowling
talking
balls
ab-
take to
What
get up to
color
the
is
top
the
of
bowling
buildings.
ball, Nathan? What color? Does it have holes in it? Does it need finger holes? This is
Yeah.
all irrelevant semantics. Who carried it up the hill?
No, it's not irrelevant semantics. Bowling balls don't magically get to the top of buildings. Somebody has to expel energy getting them up there.
In science, they do.
May
In
I-
science,
May
we
I
build a
answer this,
tower.
please?
Sorry, what do you mean in
In science, we build a tower.
Sorry,
and we put
sorry,
the bowling
sorry,
ball on the
stop,
tower.
Stop
and we drop it.
talking. What do you mean in science?
In science, it's a scientific experiment. It's an exercise. We take
Oh,
human beings
excellent.
and resources. We take a
Excellent.
physical object
Stop.
and we take
Stop.
apparatus and we
Stop
perform things. We
talking.
do stuff.
Stop. So what is the hypothesis?
The hypothesis is if you're doing math to predict the behavior
Sorry,
of
are
real
you an
world.
idiot? Do you understand what a
That's the
hypothesis is?
If we're doing
Sorry,
math to predict the
Warren,
behavior
hold
of
on.
real world,
Warren,
why do
Thomas.
we need a term
Thomas,
for gravity
Thomas,
in that math?
Thomas, do you understand what a scientific hypothesis is?
Yes. Gravity
What?
is a scientific hypothesis.
Gravity is a scientific hypothesis. No, that makes you a retard.
So ad hominem just won the debate.
No, gravity
No,
is.
I just wanna
Listen
know
to
your
my
true
words,
opinion.
Thomas. Listen to the words coming out of my mouth.
Did Nathan win,
That means
everyone?
stop
Is Nathan
talking
the big
and
winner
listen.
today?
Stop talking and listen. I have detailed that you are retarded based on your
So you're gonna call
statement.
me a
Shut
retard
up.
again.
This
You're gonna tell me to
demonstrates
stop
further
talking and call
that
me
you
a
have a
retard.
mental incapacity issue because you can't stop talking. Rather than talk,
No, you won't let me speak.
listen. So
You
listen
won't
to
let
the
me
words
say what
coming
I have
out.
to say. You ask
It
me a
is
question
not.
and then you start calling me a retard.
Yes, and I'm explaining why, but you can't listen. Probably because you have a mental incapacity. A further example would be that you can't stop talking when others talk. So I will explain if you can bear to listen long enough. I detailed your retarded statement. That would be that gravity is a hypothesis. I'm asking you to define what a scientific hypothesis is, and your answer was gravity is a hypothesis. That makes you a prize A fuckwit. Okay, sir?
Whatever you say, Nathan.
Yes, it's not an ad
So-
hominem. It came with a
Please allow me to
devastating point
continue.
attached. So I'm explaining to my audience why you're a retard. You are a retard because when asked what a scientific hypothesis was,
retard continue
and now
to
you're
make his
talking
point?
when you can't listen. Another demonstration of somebody who is mentally retarded. So, retard, I'll explain it again. When asked what a scientific hypothesis is, your answer was gravity is a hypothesis, making you a retard. Okay.
Continuing on.
No! We're going to establish that this was not, as asserted by the retard on the panel, you, an ad hominem attack. It was a demonstration of your retardation, not an ad hominem. You were
Why
wrong.
are you not allowing me to speak, Nathan?
Yeah, you were
Why
wrong,
are you not allowing
and
me to
I'm
speak?
waiting for you to concede your
You're
inaccurate
shouting me down like
description
Dell does.
of
Dell
an
just
ad
shouts people
hominem.
down. You don't have
You're
any
talking
debate.
continually because you're retarded, and I'm getting the audience to the point where they understand that I'm not ad hominem you. It's not an attack based on your character. It's an attack based on your statement that gravity is a hypothesis when asked what a scientific hypothesis is. That demonstrates that you are retarded. You have a retardation in your cognition. It's not an ad hominem as asserted by you. Okay? Take your time.
Okay, I'm going to continue where I was.
No, you're going to concede that you were wrong. Not an ad hominem,
Fuck
a
you,
demonstration
Nathan. Check
of
this out.
your stupidity. Not an ad hominem. You, like
fucking
many
idiot.
times,
Go slap your
were
kid.
You're
wrong.
Admit you were wrong, and then carry on. It's
Yeah.
quite simple.
Gonna go
Be a man.
slap your
Admit
kid,
you were wrong.
Yeah, that's it, Warren. Point out to the fuckwit that he's not a man.
Beat your child, man.
Yeah,
slap your
that's
kid.
Alright,
that is
just kick
an
him
ad.
out.
That's an ad hominem. No devastating argument, just an ad hominem.
Oh, we're talking about gravity.
Ah, so you can't be a man. You can't concede that you're wrong. You have to literally do the very thing you accused me of.
You cannot have a discussion with somebody without attacking them and calling them names.
No, I didn't call you a name. I gave the audience a concise demonstration of your retardation. That's not a name.
The gravitational constant
Hello,
destroys
we're
you.
still
It
waiting for the
destroys your
pussy on the panel, the coward on the panel, to be a man and admit he's wrong. He can't
Please
because he's a
prove your
coward.
gravity.
I'm not wrong, Nathan.
So it was an ad hominem attack. My example of your retardation was an ad
There's
hominem.
nothing
was it?
here. You haven't offered any information. No.
I'll offer the information again. When asked what a scientific hypothesis is, this retard said Gravity is a hypothesis, thus demonstrating that he is a retard, not an ad hominem. How many times are we going to do this before you concede it and be a man?
How about
You going to be a
this?
man, Thomas? You going to be a man?
The gravitational constant
Not talking about gravity.
is a hypothesis.
Talking about ad hominems.
It's not perfectly accurate.
You've made an
It doesn't
assertion,
perfectly
Thomas.
match
You're going to
reality.
grow a pair of balls.
So it is offered.
It's
Gonna grow a
not
pair.
perfectly accurate that you use the word science in the same sentence. The scientific
not.
method
Nothing
would
is
make
perfectly
it accurate
accurate.
if
Take
it
a
was anything
ruler
to do with reality.
and
What are
measure
you
something.
talking about?
How accurate is that measurement? Take a ruler and
Oh my
measure something.
goodness.
How accurate?
Not science.
It's
That's
as accurate as the ruler.
Didn't
It's as
listen to his
accurate as the
point.
scale you're using.
Where
Didn't listen to
is
his
your
point.
scientific evidence for gravity? Don't start pointing to dropping things off of buildings
My
again.
scientific evidence for gravity is the gravitational constant is
No,
required
I'm
for the
asking
math
you
to
for the
work.
scientific
You
experiment.
just spoke over me.
Sorry.
You just spoke over me. You asked me a question and you didn't let me answer it.
Go on, dig your hole.
Math. Using a
Oh,
term.
God.
Oh,
You-
God. So, when asked, this guy is as stupid as the rumpus. When asked for scientific evidence, the answer that comes out of his mouth is the math that's been done. I mean, we're literally dealing with stupid people. You know, even when you point out that they're stupid, with examples, they claim you're ad
You were
hominem.
wrong.
They
Listen
say
to
maths
you
in
guys.
cards.
You're not letting me speak.
You said math.
You
We
said
heard
math.
your
You won't let a
answer.
person speak.
We heard your
You
answer.
said math.
Math.
You were wrong.
Incorrect, retard.
Okay, I'm gonna store your answers. You both say I'm wrong.
Yes, when asked for scientific evidence of gravity, your answer was mathematics. Do you think
You're
science
gonna
and
ask me a
mathematics are the
Math
same
is,
thing?
and then
closely
talk
related
over
to
me and
science.
say I'm wrong.
Yeah, maths
Yeah.
isn't science. Maths is not science.
It's closely
You have
related
not
to
allowed
science.
me to speak.
We
You haven't
have.
allowed me to-
You
We heard you
answered
say
and you were
math.
wrong.
You were wrong. Yes, correct.
Mathematics is such a useful
I
tool
didn't
that
finish my
science
answer.
can make
I didn't
few
finish my
advances
answer.
Well, you said that it
You
was
guys
math.
get
End of story. You were wrong.
You
Why
want to
continue?
frustrate me. You want to attack me and insult me and
Now
frustrate.
he's playing the victim card. Let's just highlight again while he talks shit non-stop. So, we asked you for scientific evidence. Your answer was maths.
That's you're not. You're being completely unfair. Every time you ask me a question or offer me a
No, just playing victim card again. Let's do it again. We asked you for scientific evidence. Your answer was literally the word maths.
And I didn't call you a name.
No, it wasn't. I didn't even get to say my answer, and you started talking over me.
Yeah, you've already told us it's the G constant. That's mathematics.
You don't understand.
Oh, so now I don't understand. So I am correct. We do understand. You have answered. You're just wrong and too stupid to realise.
You're not letting me speak. You're sitting here yelling at me. You're so triggered and so fucking angry, you can't even listen
swear.
yourself.
Don't swear.
The biggest smile on my face because I love the hole you're digging.
Yeah, me
There's
too.
4 major branches
hole,
of science,
dude?
and one of them is
You
mathematics.
said
and
math.
logic.
It's the biggest hole when asked for science. You said math.
No,
You might
there's
as well
4.
jump off
That's
There are
it.
your
4 major
projection.
branches
You guys
of
project.
science and mathematics and logic.
Okay,
is one of the
what's
major
your
branches of
science? What's your
science.
definition of the scientific method? Point to where it says math. What is your
Repeatable,
definition?
observable
Math is one of the
demonstrations and
major
experiments.
branches of
That's
science.
the
Hey,
definition
hold
of
on.
science.
Hold on, P.
Okay, so where was math in that then?
Repeatable, observable. We use math to analog the real world. We measure the
You
real
can
world. and
extrapolate.
use math
No,
to
listen,
prove
you
that
can
we're measuring
extrapolate.
correctly.
You can extrapolate math out of science if you want to, but it's not the scientific method.
Dude,
I've
math-
asked you for your scientific evidence of gravity, pointing to some kind of experiment of some kind.
My
Your
scientific
answer
evidence of gravity
was
is
math.
math. You don't let me speak.
Math.
Let him say it again.
Airplane flies because
No,
math
don't
designed
start
it to
pointing to
defeat
airplanes
gravity.
that fly.
There's your math. There's your math.
No,
Math
It's
is a
dumb.
major
Absolutely.
branch of
It's just stupid.
science.
No
Sorry.
question.
is math,
Let me
is
just ask
math
him a question,
reality?
Warren. Warren, let me just
Okay.
ask him a quick question.
Ohm's law.
Thomas,
Why is
Ohm's
it a
law
major
is a
Thomas,
why is
equation that
mathematics
makes
a
your
major
phone
You're being
work.
branch
very
of
disruptive,
science that
Thomas.
has
We're
nothing
just
to
trying
do
to
with
ask you a
Ohm's law.
simple question.
Ohm's law.
Thomas,
Ohm's
trying
law.
to ask you a simple question.
Ohm's law
Can
is
you
used
stop
to design
talking or I'm gonna have to
electrical
kick you out? You're
circuits.
too
Your
disruptive.
phone wouldn't
Why are
work
you
without
now
it.
pointing at electrical
Ohm's law.
circuits? You're pointing at planes in the sky. I'm talking about
Ohm's
gravity. I
law.
want
No,
your
let's talk about
scientific
Ohm's
experiment
law.
for gravity. You said maths.
Ohm's law.
Maths is
All
not an experiment.
technology, all electricity
Maths is not an
operates on
experiment.
Ohm's law.
Talking
But
constantly.
maths
Ohm's
isn't an
law, you
experiment.
design electricity. It does not design itself. The
I
use
want
of
your
electrical,
scientific evidence
any
for
electrical
gravity.
device.
It's too stupid.
No, you're not
Scientific
listening.
evidence for gravity.
Math is required for the real world to function. Without math, airplanes can't fly.
That's total and utter nonsense. The sun will still come up tomorrow without mathematics. The stars will still come out tomorrow without mathematics. Plants will still grow without mathematics. The world will still continue to be exactly as it is without us having any formulas applied. Maths doesn't cause things. We're asking you repeatedly for your scientific evidence of something, and you repeatedly telling us maths.
I'm giving you scientific evidence that math exists and is real. Ohm's law.
Well,
Ohm's law.
It's just stupid.
Math is closely related to science. I don't see the difference.
Scientific evidence of gravity, please.
Mathematics and logic is a major branch of science.
Sorry. Science establishes cause and effect relationships through systematic experimentation. Science is hypothesis driven. Hypothesis is scientific predictions of your presumed cause on the observed phenomena. That's science. It has absolutely nothing to do with mathematics and everything to do with observing phenomena in the natural world. That's science. Maths, no, that's not science.
Nathan, you think
yes,
maths can show the cause and effect relationship in science?
He's an idiot.
Do you have
This
any
guy's just
evidence
stupid.
that math is not science?
Okay, let's talk about how
it's
math
closely related. It's
discovered
not
something.
exactly
Sorry,
science.
been asked if we can show that math is not science. Yeah, they're two different things. Go and look up the word maths, then go and look up the word science, and what you will find is very different descriptions for the two things.
But math is a major branch of science.
Math is not a branch of science. Let's say it again. Science establishes cause and effect. It establishes it in the natural world. What you are observing is going to become your dependent variable, and you are going to try and cause the effect of that dependent variable by varying and manipulating your independent variable, the presumed cause of the effect. The way you establish that presumed cause to be the cause is through systematic experimentation. That process is called the scientific method. It is not maths.
Ohm's law.
You're a retard. You're just throwing out nonsense. You're not addressing the fact that you've said maths 3 times, because you're quite literally retarded. You're not addressing the fact that when asked what scientific hypothesis is, you said gravity. You're stupid. You know, you're stupid, and there's nothing else for me to say about you, Thomas. You're a thicko.
Ohm's law.
Yeah, you're just throwing out shit again. So you're not addressing the fact that what I have detailed about observation of natural phenomena in the natural world, about independent and dependent variables, about science being hypothesis driven, you're not addressing any of this because you, an idiot, thinks that maths is science. That just makes you stupid. To me and everybody watching, you can throw out your crap continually. It doesn't change the fact that you are stupid.
I'm stupid. Is that what you think?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So
yeah, you
let me ask you
described
this.
gravity as a hypothesis.
Can you make a computer, can you make an electrical device function without Ohm's law, without math?
Sorry, we're not talking about computers. Computers would fall into the category of, guess what? Not maths, not science, but technology. So we're definitely not talking about science when we're talking about computers. That's not science. Again,
We're talking about a description of a force in nature. And science has defined that force, and you're denying it.
Has science defined that force? Has it used the scientific method to define that force? Can you point to the scientific experiment that's proven gravity? Please go back to my original question.
And math.
Thank you for doing that. Where is your scientific experiment for gravity? Where is it?
Isaac Newton, bro. What the fuck? He's
Isaac Newton, bro. What the fuck?
So again, he's asked for a scientific experiment, and what he gave as his answer was the name of a man. Not a scientific experiment, not a formulated hypothesis, not systematic experimentation, but the name of a man.
Isaac Newton's a scientific experiment, bro.
Isaac Newton is an institution. You don't recognize it. You want to laugh at history. You're laughing at history.
Thomas,
you're like a peanut gallery.
I'm laughing at the fact that you've basically called Sir Isaac Newton a scientific experiment. I have asked you very clearly, and I'll say it again. I'm going to back Nathan up. You're quite retarded in this.
What you guys are doing?
Please, can you give me your scientific experiment that proves gravity?
Let's go back to that. Let's go back. You mentioned
scientific
the bowling ball.
Experiment that proves gravity. Let's see.
You mentioned
drop a bowling ball from 9 feet.
No.
Measure it, and then use math.
So literally, we've pulled this apart. Right, this isn't a scientific experiment. It doesn't have a hypothesis. He's not going to offer a systematic experimentation and some technology that might have been derived from this science. No. What he's going to do is come up with a bullshit ad hoc nonsense and tell us that that's science.
Can we go back to this bowling ball thing? So the problem with the bowling ball was that it had to be carried upwards, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the problem. The problem was the bowling ball required force.
Let's Zinder talk. Let's Zinder talk.
So let's say, let's take instead a rock that falls down a canyon. People would argue that the rock was always there, and people would argue that the rock was going up to I don't know, plate tectonic and stuff like this. But I think most of the people on the panel say that the rock was always up there. Now it falls down the canyon. No one carried it. No one carried it on top of the canyon. Can we take this as example instead of the bowling ball? No one has to carry it up.
I will accept that.
Yeah. So this problem with carrying the bowling ball up is annihilated.
Okay.
May I say something, please?
Just before you do, P. Yes, you'll go next. So, are you saying that your observed phenomena is a rock falling down a cliff face?
Instead of the bowling ball, I wanted to say yes, but I don't know what he wants to say. What his point was, so I want him to explain it with the rock cloud falling down the cliff.
Is it my turn?
Okay.
Go ahead, P.
Well, I
think he was asking me.
Well, yeah. Do you want to answer?
Same as a skydiver. Same as any object that falls. It's going to fall off the cliff. It's going to go into a free fall.
Every single
and
question
then at that
is directed
point,
at you, Thomas.
The system
that was
applies.
directed at P.
The
who
system
specifically
of gravity.
asked if he
Why
could
is it
talk.
fallen off of the cliff? Has there been a force applied
This
to
guy
it?
must have an IQ of about 60.
Wind resistance.
Literally,
there's a few elements that
P.
come into
Mars
play.
said, "Can I speak next?"
Has it been let go?
I said, "Yes, you can speak next."
You've been cracked.
I say, "Go ahead, P. Mars," and then Thomas talks. Do you have a mental problem?
I thought he was addressing my point.
Right, I'll say it again for this complete
I thought he
idiot.
was asking
I'll say
me
it
a
again
question.
while I shut him up, because I've now got to mute him just to be able to be heard by the audience. So, P. Mars says, "Can I speak next?" I say, "Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, P, but you can go next." I finish and then say, "Go ahead, P. Mars," and then Thomas starts talking. He is mental, stupid, an idiot. Go ahead, P. Mars.
Okay, I'm sure you guys will disagree, but in my opinion, there's no issue with carrying the bowling ball up because that is called gravitational energy, or it's part of potential energy, and there's a math equation that involves a constant of gravity to explain that as well. So it's not like
absolutely that's different. Potential energy is
there's an equation with a G in it, so you got to prove that G. So we're back to the experiment, the scientific experiment of proving G. That's basically it.
G is in action always. G is everywhere. An object at rest.
Oh, God. We're just going to have this guy assert his bloody religious belief. He's not going to give us a scientific experiment for it. He's just going to assert his religious belief about it.
There's a G in there. You need to prove that G. If there's any maths involved, you have to validate any values that you put in your equations. So it needs to have science behind it. So you need to prove that, G. Where's the scientific evidence for G? You haven't pointed to one yet. You pointed to a man.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Scientific evidence for G, in my opinion, is if you remove it from the math equation.
No, we didn't ask for the opinion of a retard. If we wanted the opinion of a retard, we'd have said, "Oi, retard, what are your feelings and thoughts about gravity?" That's not what he asked for, retard. He said, "Give us your scientific evidence." Not your feelings.
It's a math equation.
Not your
You put the math
opinion.
in, or
A
you take-
scientific experiment, retard. Not your feelings, thoughts, and opinions on the matter. Nobody gives two flying Fs about your opinion about gravity. Okay?
So numbers on a piece of paper are my opinion.
You need the science before the maths.
Thomas, let me ask
Math
you a
is
question.
opinion.
Thomas.
Math is my opinion.
Thomas.
No,
Whether it's
you
right
get-
or wrong.
you get
my
the
opinion.
truth from
Again,
the
let's just point it out for the audience again. So I point out that he's being asked for scientific evidence and what he's given his opinion, and then he asks permission to just give his opinion.
Thomas, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What motivated you to join the panel today?
I have the day off and I woke up and I noticed that you guys were running the live stream in my time domain when I'm awake. And I've been following the flat earth thing for a long time, just kind of watching you guys. And I kind of just wanted to talk about math a little bit. And I didn't want to get into a big shouting match and a bunch of ad hominem with people. I'm a human being. And to be honest with you guys, we could actually be friends in the real world.
Oh,
There's so
God,
much.
who gives a crap about your appeal to feelings? If you want to go and talk about maths, sod off to a bloody maths forum. We are talking about the natural world. The natural world is dealt with by science. If you want to talk about maths, go to a bloody maths forum.
About that,
Yeah.
Thomas, would you
Math
like
isn't
to explain
science,
this
man.
to me after the show? Without everyone shouting around, I'm kind of interested what you want to say. So, after the show, do you mind sticking?
Now let's shut Zinder up. He does this every time a dick comes on the panel that's a complete retard that just toes the party line when it comes to globeheadness. Oh, can I talk to you afterwards? You're obviously really credible. No, Zinder, let's not plug up my airwaves with your social networking. The guy is a total and utter retard. When asked for scientific evidence, he told us gravity was a hypothesis. The guy's an idiot.
You're holding court.
I wasn't talking to you, Nathan.
You're holding court.
Nathan, look, it doesn't. Yeah, you don't have to care with who I talk about. Not.
I'm running a show, Zinder.
Let me speak. If I want to get an explanation from him, I need to get an explanation that he can talk without getting interrupted.
Do you think the 254 people care about your social networking with the retard? Do you think that's what they want to watch?
Yeah, he seems a little bit more intelligent than you, Nathan.
Oh, really? That sounds like an ad hominem attack based on nothing. You're not taking apart my argument now, am I? You're not taking apart anything I've said. You're just saying that this retard, who hasn't got the vaguest idea the difference between maths and science, is more intelligent than me. What's that based on?
Did you guys know that you can smell arrogance? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Really?
What does arrogance mean? Hold on. What does arrogance mean?
I've just made a scientific observation.
What does arrogance mean?
What was your observed phenomenon in your scientific
I want to
observation?
round out the show on this point. I want this
gravity.
retard to tell me what arrogant means.
Being really mean and angry rather than being able to just be calm and comfortable and speak with people. It's like a lack of confidence or something. You're insecure. It's your insecurity.
Very secure because I
Arrogant.
an answer to your question.
Maybe you'd like to look up. Maybe you'd like to look up the origins. Hold on, Warren, your mic's slipping. Maybe you'd like to look up the origins of
are angry
the word.
and frustrated and hostile towards others.
Oh, that's what it means, does it?
Well, yeah, that's what it means. It's very fundamental.
Thomas, one more question.
Sure.
Could you give me any example ever in the whole history of mathematics where maths has ever caused to do something?
Explain again, just maybe articulate it a little better.
Can you give me any example ever where maths has ever caused anything to happen?
Yeah, I have a power supply that gives 12 volts electricity.
Yeah.
And use Ohm's law to make a transformer that turns AC into DC.
Yeah.
And then the DC voltage, it uses a voltage divider that bleeds some of it to ground, but then allows some of that voltage to be available for me to use to make a light up.
Right.
And Ohm's law is used as an equation that tells us how much resistance to apply for the voltage divider to provide the 12 volts from a 90 volt transformer.
Sure, but there was a key word,
and that's how we do work. It's electricity.
Thomas, there was a key word in my question, and it was the word caused. I didn't say explain. I didn't say describe. I said caused. So I'll ask it again. Is there any examples where maths has ever caused something to do anything?
Yeah, math causes electricity to do work.
No, it
really?
It does.
Dude, it doesn't.
Retard.
Math is the cause, because without math, you can't do the work.
Retard.
You can't make an electric motor do the work because you have to know how much copper to put on the armature and how many winds, and you have to know the polarity of the electrical field and how to create that with an electromagnet.
Not
without math, you can't figure that out. Nikola Tesla proved this. Nikola Tesla was the groundbreaker.
He asked you, retard.
That invented all of the technology based on Ohm's law.
He didn't understand the words you used, Anthony. Just too stupid to listen. He used the word cause, idiot.
Well, terms defined in the dictionary are just words. They're not perfect analogs for reality.
Words have meaning. That's what we're dealing with. People who claim semantics are stupid and don't understand that words do have true meanings and significance. Like the word arrogant. Yeah? Its origins are from the word arrogante or arrogar. To claim for oneself. That's the origins of the word arrogant. Did you know that?
Yes, it basically means that you have no backup and you're making an independent...
No, it means... I just said it and you didn't listen. My God, this guy is so stupid. To claim for oneself.
All alone.
Listen, repeat it back. What did I say it means?
In a tiny little place.
Repeat it back.
Just you.
I've tried to educate you. What did I say? Repeat it back to me.
I'm not going to repeat what you said.
Try. Try.
I don't want to learn anything.
Try and repeat back what I said to demonstrate that you actually listened.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Yeah, of course you didn't. It's because you're a fucktard. To claim for oneself. That is the origin of the word arrogant. That's where it comes from. Yeah? You think it means something completely different because you don't understand the etymology of the word. That's because you're stupid.
Really? So now we're talking about words and their meanings from the dictionary?
Yeah! You absolute fuckwit! We're talking about words and their meanings.
This is ad hominem. For you to attack me...
you started talking about words.
And my definition of words is more ad hoc.
Science terms are very defined.
With that, I will say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!